All right, this week I've got a question about Venus and if we should dress as our Venus sign. I say yes. I love dressing for the Venus sign. Depending on where your Venus is, where it's placed, what it's doing in your chart. I also think dressing as your rising sign is very helpful. Honestly, I'm like, dress just in terms of whatever makes you feel good and dress in ways that makes you feel powerful. I remember when I first met my wife and I was like dealing with like getting gray hair and I didn't really like it. And so this hairdresser convinced me to put blonde streaks in my hair, which really was not a good idea, but it would like hide the gray. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I did it. And then I was hanging out with, her. We were just dating at that time. And I said, I don't know, I just don't feel very powerful with this hairdo. And she like dropped everything and she was like, change it right away. Change it right now. You cannot live with this hairdo for one more moment. And I was like, okay, easy. But she's also really right for me. Again, I've got a specific type of Venus placement. My Venus is very strong. Venus is very important in my chart. It facilitates a lot for me. So I really need to make sure that my Venus is happy. And I think that is a way for us to also facilitate attracting things into our life. So you could dress like the sign that your Venus is in, whatever that means to you. I don't know. Does it mean that Venus in Capricorn is like business attire? It means that like Venus and Earth signs are going to be probably a little bit more practical and like put together. Venus and fire signs are obviously going to be very loud. Venus and air signs may be a little bit more conceptual. Venus and water signs maybe a little bit more fluid, maybe a little bit more mystical, magical. And also Venus in its own sign, Venus in Taurus, Venus in Libra, or Venus exalted in Pisces is just going to have a capacity to present themselves or to create things that are really beautiful. So for example, Beyoncé has Venus in Libra, which is an exceptionally powerful placement. She also has it with Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn, which is exalted. So it's a whole combo. It's not just Venus in Libra, but if we're just talking about dressing like your Venus sign, I think it's very interesting because Venus in Libra is in its own element. And what is she called? She's called Queen Bee. What is Venus? Venus is the goddess. And what do you give Venus? You give Venus honey. Venus is associated with bees and honey because she's the great goddess. And so someone with a super strong Venus, Beyoncé, is called Queen Bee, which is literally another word for Venus in its own sign. And I don't know, I think maybe you could make a case for her dressing more like her Venus placement than like her rising sign, which we just found out was Aries. Dressing like Aries is a little bit more like leather and straps and weapons, perhaps. I mean, not all, but it's ruled by Mars. So it's a little bit more like in combat. It's a little bit harsher. It's a little bit, more about like the strength of it. And definitely she dresses in flashy, ways and all of that kind of stuff. But there's something about that articulation of like her having the beehive and her being Queen Bee that's so perfectly articulated in having such a strong Venus. So take that for what it's worth. Dress in the ways that make you feel powerful, that make you feel beautiful, that make you feel soft and open and receptive and magnetic and attractive. And if you're like me, that changes. Like sometimes I dress like my sun sign because my sun is sitting with other planets and it's a really potent signature and I feel more comfortable there. Sometimes I dress way more like my Venus, which is very different than my sun. So it's like, I think I switch a lot, but they're definitely signatures that are embedded in my astrological chart. And it's about more than just the sign that my Venus or my sun or my ascendant is in. It's really about the cluster of planets too, and what that might articulate for us. All right. I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your questions.